Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Nelson with TUG, and we're so glad to have you join us today for our TUG Connects 365 programming. As you settle in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, let me give a brief introduction for TUG, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community of Infor distribution software users. We've all heard that phrase before, knowledge is power, and I can say with confidence that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up tomorrow with a little more of both. But today is one of our many in-depth sessions in our TUG Connects series. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events facilitate the timely exchange of ideas and information to help you work smarter and with more confidence. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a winning and powerful combination. If you're currently a member, it pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, please visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Jim Spellos, president of Meeting You, who is going to be presenting the Ultimate Tech Hackathon, 30 Tools and Shortcuts to Use Technology More Effectively. Jim, go ahead and take it away.
So I want to show something really cool, okay? And this is amazing right here. It's a Google Sheet. What, you don't think that's cool? I mean, really, you don't think a Google Sheet is cool? Let me show you something, because here's a sheet with information, with English and Spanish information about health and all that. But you know what's really cool about this is that with no programming and with no cost, you can turn it into an app. I mean, within like 5 minutes, you can create your own app for your own organization at no cost, only having to know a Google Sheet. And that, my friends, starts what I think is going to be an hour of my favorite and hopefully some of your favorite hacks. Now, by the way, you're probably thinking, what's that tool? Well, the tool is called Glide. And again, it allows you, there is a pay component of it, of course, but what you're seeing right here is an app that has all types of menu information and chat and learning and forms and links free of charge. Oh my gosh. So we got an hour to play. But more importantly, gang, I want to hear about your favorite hacks, your favorite shortcuts. So do me a huge favor. In the chat area, what I want you to do is start typing right now the things, the shortcuts, the hacks that you couldn't live without, that you use, if not every day, on a regular basis. Because this way, everyone can learn from each other, and we can get even more than 30. In fact, we'll probably have 30 hacks covered within the first 5 minutes. Pretty cool, don't you think? So what's on the menu for today? Well, I'm going to organize it in different categories. I mean, obviously, the key thing is digital shortcuts. Whether it's your computer, whether it's your phone, whether it's your tablet, ways that you're going to be able to save time, increase productivity. Some stuff is really basic, some stuff's a little out there, but I want all of you to be able to come through with at least one new tool. In fact, with that Glide app, I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of you already have that killer takeaway for the day. That would be really cool. That way we can even build on it. And please do, while we're having this conversation, make sure you ask any questions in the Q&A area, because we're going to take a few breaks during the session to get your questions answered and get into more of a conversation about the coolest stuff that's out there. So we're going to talk shortcuts galore. We can't talk digital without talking Microsoft Office tips and tricks. We're going to try to stay on the lesser known side, but we're going to cover a huge range in a very short amount of time. As always, and if you were with me a few weeks ago, we're going to need to just make sure we very briefly cover your digital security. Critically important to make sure that all the great stuff that you have is taken care of, secure, and you're not giving your identity or your critical information away. Obviously, part of the conversation are way cool websites and apps. And while I can't necessarily showcase the apps here, well, I could have had another account and I didn't do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to showcase it through the web. A lot of stuff that's going to be based on the website, but we'll talk about the apps that are out there. And maybe a surprise or two while we're at it too. You know, so that's the game plan for this session. So hacks, really, I always have people come up to me and say, why do you call that a hackathon? But let's understand the base definition here. A strategy or technique for managing one's times or activities more efficiently. If nothing else, this session already is hack galore. And we're going to now add to that with my 3 favorite hacks that you may not even know about. 3 of the coolest tools that are out there. Number 1, the question mark. Some of this stuff's really simple though, right? Okay, so let me show you. Let me go to a website. Of course, I got to find it here, and I will in a second. Let's go right here. Okay, so I'm in my email. Here's the information regarding this. You know, Gmail has shortcuts, but did you know how to access them in only a single click? If you hit the question mark, in fact, it's the shift question mark, what will always, always, always pop up is going to be a list of all the keyboard shortcuts that Gmail has for you. Pretty sweet. Now, if you hit the escape key, they go away. So it's a toggle. You can hit, the shift question mark again. And if you hit shift question mark again, it goes away. And oh, by the way, if you don't think that's enough, if you go to Facebook and you hit, guess what? Shift question mark. Now look at the bottom of the screen. Now you got a more limited version, but you have the keyboard shortcuts that you can use from there. So what I'm going to suggest always is when you're looking at a new website that has functionality, hit the question mark and see whether you get more functionality put right up onto your screen. The one thing to be aware of, and let's go back to, well, we can go back to Gmail or Facebook for this one, is you don't want to be in a search box or any sort of text box. Because guess what? If you hit the question mark from that point, you can enter a question mark. So make sure you click outside of any active boxes and then just hit the question mark, and there they are. So tool number 1, 3 of the best hacks you may never have known about, the question mark. Number 2, the push pin. For this one, we're going to go to Word, although we could go to Excel, we could go to almost any of the Microsoft Office tools, and we're going to dig back in this space later. But what I'm going to do is go into File right now, and I'm going to take a look at all the documents that I've been working on. But what people don't remember sometimes is they have a way to be able to bring to the top, to pin the most recent, the most frequently used documents so they're easy to find. So right now, let's say this really big picture here, which we're going to play with in a couple minutes, and I'm going to scoot over to the right side, and you're going to see the push pin right there. Well, when I click that pin, and then I go to my pinned list, it now comes up as one of those options that are in here. And here we go. So I can take any of the documents I'm working on, and I can pin them. If, for example, I don't need it anymore, I can just go hover over the pin again to unpin them. This is going to be a quick way to find those documents that are the go-to documents, whether it's in Word, whether it's in Excel, whether it's in PowerPoint, that you're going to be able to use just by hitting a push pin. Number 2. And yet, of the 3, I've saved my favorites for last. This could be the absolute game changer of these. I'm not even going to show you what it is yet. We're going to go to the web. Take a look at this. Watch this. Okay, so I'm in Gmail and yada, 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 yada. I'm working around, and all of a sudden I do something really stupid. Matter of fact, I hit this X right there. Boom, there it goes. Oh, shoot. I now lost that website. I've already had it on the right page. No worries. 3 keys tapped in conjunction. Control, Shift, and the letter T. And what that will do is resuscitate any and all of the websites that you just closed. In fact, if I really had a huge gambling sense, I could close out this entire browser right now. And without doing anything else, except for opening up the browser, I could hit Control, Shift, T, and that would bring me back with all of the tabs resuscitated. That is my way cool power approach. By the way, Command Shift T, if you're on a Mac, will do the same thing. But if you've ever lost or closed accidentally a tab or the entire browser, hit Control Shift T and you bring it back. By the way, are you in Firefox? Cool, works there too, works in Chrome. I'm even pretty sure it works in Edge, but I never work in Edge, so I'm not 100% sure there. So Those are 3 of the favorite hacks you might never have known about. Okay, now we get to keyboard shortcuts. And we all know combinations of Control and Alt and Shift give you all sorts of different options. Well, this blog from a company called Kensington put out a while ago, and I'm always indebted to them for doing this, what I thought was the best visual list of some of these tools. Control A, we know, selects all text, and Control C is the copy. But did you know Alt Control C inserts the copyright symbol, and Alt Control R inserts the registered symbol, and Control W, oh, you got 26. Matter of fact, we're already at 30 shortcuts, and we're 10 minutes in. That's pretty cool. So your best shortcut keyboards are here. If you want to go to a site such as Wikipedia and find an even longer list, they are all out there. Understand Windows and keyboard shortcuts for many of us are the basic focus of our existence, so we can get the repetitive work done quicker and quicker and quicker. And this one isn't on the list, but it really should be. Okay, so ever have to take something from a website and then put it into a Word document? And oftentimes it'll come in with all this formatting, with bold and center and heading to and all the stuff. Let's look at a 3-key combination: Control, Shift, V. Now let's actually practice this to see how this looks. So it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to actually be calling up another shortcut by doing this. But the first thing I want to do is just copy, and I'm just using Control C, this formatted header. I'm going to bring it down. Now, if I place my cursor anywhere and hit Control V, everything comes in with all the formatting. But if I hit Control Shift V, not B, V, one of 2 things will happen. If you don't have the program I have installed, it will unformat it and paste what you have. But watch what happens when I hit Control Shift V. It actually brings up another little box. I'm not going to tell you what that box is right now, by the way. Why not? Because I'm just going to show you that I can use Control Shift V, hold Control down, click on this, and guess what? Now I can paste it, keeping the text only. I really blew that one, by the way, so when I show you that particular option, you'll see it works. But if you don't have that, Control Shift V, beautiful thing to be able to use, do a copy from a formatted piece of text to unformatted. Whew. Okay, back to Word. Let's talk about compression. And in fact, we could do this in PowerPoint as well. And in fact, I think it's even more functional in PowerPoint than Word. But since I'm already running a PowerPoint file, I'm going to open a Word file for here. And it's called compression. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and well, they do realize and they don't even think about it, is that these tools that we have, these Microsoft tools aren't picture editors. But we can do some picture formatting here. So I have a really big picture here that's about 4K, and it's probably going to be a meg or 2 of size. You know what happens in a PowerPoint, right? When you try to do a lot of images and they're all really large, and you put a video in there, and now the size gets run away. Let me show you the trick. You click on the image, just click once, and you're always within Microsoft going to get a picture format menu that will appear at the top of the menu. When I click on it, we're going to go to compress picture toward the left side of the ribbon. Click that, and now it gives me options. It says, how small do I want to compress this into? Well, what I found is you can go as small as 96 pixels per inch. I'm going to go 150. It's not going to make a visual difference, but what will make a difference here is the box, the checkbox at the very top, where it says apply only to this picture. Because what I can do, especially in PowerPoint, is take one photo, adjust the size, unclick that box, and when I hit OK, I have now resized every single photo in that particular document. Pretty darn cool. So we want to do things with compression. We want to be able to reduce picture size. By the way, does not work for video. We're talking for something that works for photos in any of your documents, but compression is awesome. As is an old and oftentimes not used approach called spike. And it's the Control F3 that's going to drive this. So let's take a look at this right here. And here's what we want to do. Again, any time of solution always has an action that needs to be fixed, that needs to be modified. In this case, what I want to do is I want to pull a couple of different sentences from here, bring it to the bottom, but have them repasted together. Now, it's going to look kind of odd, but work with me for a second. I'm going to highlight the first phrase here. Now, if I hit Control F3, that phrase is going to disappear, which is not what I really completely want. So I'm going to hit Control Z, bring it back. But what Control F has done is put it into a paste buffer that will expand. I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to take another phrase here, maybe this whole sentence. I'm going to hit Control F3. It disappears. I hit Control Z just to bring it back. And we'll do one more. We'll do one more phrase right here. Highlight it. Control F3, Control Z to bring it back. You're saying, well, why is he doing all that? I'll show you. Because now I'm down lower in the document. Let's go to a full open page here. And instead of hitting Control V, which will only bring back the last thing I've saved, if I hit Control Shift F3, it now brings back everything. It sort of lines up everything in a paste buffer that I could use collectively. So I could pick out things from a document in 5, 6, 10, 20 different places, and with one series of clicks, save them and then reproduce them in the order that I want. And now at this point, I can do whatever editing to make that whole paragraph look good. This is called Spike. That, by the way, is Snoopy's brother, whose name is, yep, Spike. And Control F3 saves it. Control Shift F3 brings it back onto the page. Okay, we're almost done with Windows right now, but a couple of power hacks you need to know about if you don't already. My favorite, by the way, I'm going to say that a lot, and that's okay, right? I'm going to say that a lot. These are my favorites because they're so cool. Alt-Tab. If I hit the Alt key, and you've seen this already, you're going to see all my windows open up once I hit the Tab key once. But by hitting Alt-Tab and Release, I can quickly toggle back and forth between open windows. It's the quickest way to be able to do this. And in fact, if you have to do any sort of presentation and you're in PowerPoint and you need to go to show an Excel file, you need to go to show to a web site, Alt-Tab is your friend. Always, always works. Control Escape will bring you to the Start menu without having to go anywhere else. And you can always hit Escape to get back out of there. Control Shift Escape, which is coming next, will bring up the Task Manager. And if your computer at any point is in bad health, the Task Manager is one of the first places you're going to want to look to see what's hitting the central processing unit, see what's affecting memory. It's one of my favorite diagnostic shortcuts there. And then we get to what I'm not going to do right now because it deals with virtual desktops. And I'm not a huge fan personally. And in this day and age, we're probably not sharing desktops with other people, although we might be with our family and kids, so you never know. But if you hit Win, Control D, that will actually bring up an absolute blank desktop where other people could have their files and their work open, and then you can shift back and forth. Write those down. I'm not going to showcase it right now. I don't want to mess up all the files I have on here because I might hit something wrong. But Win, Control D brings you to another desktop, and Win Tab, that one I can show actually, will show them all. So there are all my different desktops on here, and you can see them at the very top of the screen. So desktop 2 and 3 are pretty blank, but desktop 1 is what I'm working on. Okay, now files. 10, 12 years ago, there was this really cool Google tool, and I forget what it's named. I'm always blanking on it, that literally sat on your computer, indexed everything in your computer, and allowed you to search for files. Now, I know Microsoft has a little search box at the bottom, but I also know that we all know that it's fairly ineffective. This is an old DOS tool. And actually, I learned about it again because I used it years ago from somebody in a session I was doing a few years ago, and reminded me of a tool that's called Agent Ransack. And so what I now need to do, and yeah, I do have a lot of files here, but here it is Agent Ransack. So I wanted to find the files I had in my computer that was with the word hackathon. Could be a phrase. I could have even put the actual file name in here. I tell it where to look. I'm going to look in my JS work, and on the right side, it's going to show all the subfolders. I'm even going to identify how large the file has to be. So it's not just a Word file with that in there. I want it to be over a meg. I hit Start, and it pulled up all the files, including this one that I'm working on right now. Pretty sweet. Free, resides in your resident memory, but the agent ransack is one of my favorite shortcut tools to be able to find that file that otherwise I'd be struggling for 15 minutes trying to figure out which folder or subfolder I put it into. Next up, when you saw the Control-Shift-V, I ran into a problem because I have a clipboard manager and it's called Clip. And you actually saw it come up, but we'll just bring it all the way up here because every time I control and copy something, it goes into this clipboard manager, which means a day ago, a month ago, a year ago, if I wanted to, I can find something I clipped and then repaste it exactly where I want it. So it's really, really cool tool to be able to allow that to work. Now, by the way, if you use that Control F3, the spike that we talked about, and it doesn't work with that, it works straight with the Control C, copy, or Control X, cut. But Clip, a free clipboard manager. I will say to one extent, while I always will be very hesitant about adding additional files without testing them first and making sure they're valid, this one's a little annoying in the permissions that you give it. So it becomes a delicate balance as to whether I love it or I think it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I do keep it on my computer. So obviously I like having a clipboard manager. Now we get to web tools, and in fact, we get to apps, and we get to my absolute daily double in apps. And in a couple of weeks from now, I'm going to talk about my Apptastic session, 60 apps in 60 minutes. And these two will absolutely be at the top of that. They are Flipboard and Pocket. So right now, let's get to the web. By the way, I'm showing these to you on my computer. They work even better on your phone and your tablet. Flipboard is your personal curated magazine. Allows you to get articles about topics that you want. And in fact, one of the really, really cool things here is that I could use any of these articles and hit that plus sign at the bottom of the article. And I can either create my own magazine or, because I've already done that, put it into any magazine that I have. So you can create your own magazine to share with your colleagues and have it on Flipboard. Everybody has the app, and if they want to use it on the web, they can use it there as well and create a curated content library. Really, really sweet. Now, the daily double here is to be able to use this in combination with what could be my most used app of all time, and that is Pocket. Pocket used to be called Read It Later, and I think that's probably a better name for it because it allows you to save anything you found from a website, from an app, from a browser, wherever you are, and put it into your own storage capability to be able to read it later. Now, within the app, it's as simple as going down to the share icon. But if you're on the website, if you're on the web here, and let's just open up this Samsung Unveils the Galaxy Fold article, and we'll bring it up to the screen. And I want to put this into Pocket. You're going to notice at the top of my screen where my shortcuts are, I have shortcuts with a plus. Those are actually called bookmarklets. And they're a really, really cool shortcut tool that allows me with a single click to be able to, well, I need to log in right now, but to be able to save anything straight from a website. Pretty sweet how that works. So I can take one click of an article, one tap of an article, and put it into Pocket. I'll tell you how my wife uses Pocket. All of our recipes are on there. I mean, essentially, we just have tags and we want to know what we want to make, and we do a search on a tag and boom, there they all are. It even works in the days that we start traveling again when you're on the airplane and don't want to spend $150 for 15 minutes online. You can read it offline. My daily double of cool apps, Flipboard and Pocket. What about YouTube? Lots of hacks. There are tons of hacks that are there. So if we jump forward to YouTube, I got lots of stuff open here. So again, this was the file. This is what we did a couple weeks ago for you guys. But some things I want to do. If I hit the arrow keys, and I want you right now focusing on the time, because I can now shift, move and jump by 5 seconds by hitting the right arrow or go backwards. And you see all the funny faces I make by going left 5 seconds. Or if I want to go halfway into the presentation or 70% into the presentation, I can use one of the numbers 1 through 9 to go to increments of 10%. So if I hit the number 7, which I'm going to do right now, it's going to take me to the 35-minute mark. If I want to go back to the 20% mark. I just hit the number 2, and now I'm at 10% with an absolute terrible picture of me out to boot. So space bar, left or right arrow keys, the 1 through 9, F brings you into full screen. Up and down arrow keys help you increase the volume. There are tons of hacks. There are probably more than that, and we'll see those in a second, because there's got to be a complete list somewhere, right? Guess what? If you go up to your picture in the top right corner and you look down to the bottom, you're going to see keyboard shortcuts. And if you then click on it, you're going to see all the keyboard shortcuts. But wait, you're saying, Jim, you talked about the question mark earlier. Guess what? It works here too. Pretty sweet stuff. So we have a lot of really neat stuff. And by the way, if you do want to share anything with a friend on YouTube, but have them focus at a particular point in the video and not just necessarily at the start, the share icon, let's go here so you can see it. So I can go to share and I can say start at, and only start at 15 minutes and 34 seconds. And then I can copy it, and then I will send them a link that already has that starting time there. Here's something I want you to see, but don't go through the boring stuff. Just take a look at this. Whew, pretty cool stuff. Gloria, help me on this one. Any questions and answers, or did people share some cool hacks at this point that we can talk about?
We sure do, Jim. The one question that has populated is, how can I download a YouTube video?
Oh man, I'm really torn about giving this answer. I'm torn because there always are ways to do it, but they always are ways that have spyware and different components sometimes built in. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I was to type in before the Y in YouTube here, the letters, and I want to make sure it's after the period, GEN, and then hit enter, you see you're going to get a blockage here. This is one of the sites that people talk about, that you can download a video. But look at what happened with my malware. It all of a sudden came up and said the site detected something that you shouldn't be on, and it's protecting me. So while there are plenty of sites that are out there that can do that, Gloria, I'm always going to suggest that you do a lot of due diligence first. And I'm never comfortable suggesting a particular one of those sites for the reason that they oftentimes might have malicious software attached to it. It's a great question.
Kind of reminds me of the old Napster music days, right, Jim?
Oh my gosh. And I know you or I never borrowed anything from Napster at all, right? We would do stuff like that.
That's all we have that's populated right now. Although somebody just wrote into chat, if you want to download a YouTube video, add PP after YouTube and URL, such as youtubepp.com, and then the actual link, the remainder of the link. Is that secure, Jim?
I can't give you 100% certainty on it, because the Gen YouTube was secure for 1.5 years and all of a sudden became malicious. So I would just say there are tools out there. Let the buyer beware. It's really important to understand that they're going to be. You can Google this and find a ton of solutions. But I'm always hesitant to make any professional recommendation from the perspective that I'm at right now, Gloria.
Okay, especially with regard to using a work computer where there might be significant loss of productivity because your computer has been compromised through the virus. That's it right now. I'm going to let you go ahead, and I'm going to go back silent and quiet here.
Beautiful. So we talked about video. Let's talk about Zoom. I bet you never knew you'd need these, because until about 6 months ago, Zoom was the furthest thing away from what we do every day. Now it's what we do every day. So a couple of shortcuts for you. Number one, Alt. One of my favorite ones in Zoom, because if you hit Alt right now, you're going to see that horizontal menu bar pop up and stay on the screen. And if you hit it again, you'll toggle it off. Oftentimes I would tell people, well, hover your mouse and then just hit the Alt key and that comes up. With that said, Alt-I, when you're in a meeting, is a great way to invite someone into a meeting where it's an open meeting and they have the password and all that, because that brings up a few different email links or actually social media links that you can quickly share. So if I needed to get Gloria into a meeting, I could just tap on anybody's image in the meeting, hit Alt-I, and I can quickly access the ability to share that link. And especially if you're running a meeting, Alt-M is when you need to know. It mutes everyone. Need we say any more about that? By the way, We've talked about shortcuts across other platforms within Zoom. The place you need to go is in your settings. Now, I can't show this to you because when you're doing a Zoom session, you can't actually show your own toolbar. But you can try this right now, because on the bottom right of your toolbar where it says mute or stop video, you have that down arrow. And if you click the down arrow, you're going to see both audio and video settings. And if you hit either one, you're going to get to the same settings menu. But where I'm going to focus your attention is toward the bottom, where you have the keyboard shortcuts. And you're going to see not a complete list, but a pretty extensive list of shortcuts. But here's the cool thing about that. Did you know that when you're in that, you can click on those shortcuts and rename them? Give them your own shortcut meaning. Now, be careful you don't overwrite another shortcut, but you can customize the shortcuts that are there. So good thing to know within Zoom. And by the way, one more thing to just be aware of within Zoom is the app marketplace, is the fact that Zoom has a huge burgeoning infrastructure of third-party apps that are working within them. Here is a list of different transcription and translation apps that you can consider downloading. Many are pay, a couple are free. More of them are freemium than anything else, free at a certain level and then premium once you use it at a certain point. But check this out to see if these help with what you're doing, especially as we spend more and more time in Zoom over the days and weeks and months and years and moving forward. We ain't leaving this platform anytime in the near future, that's for sure. So we talked video. Let's also talk about video format change. I'm going to give you two different solutions here. One is going to be an open source download solution that is called Handbrake. This is not for the faint of heart technically, so you got to be a little bit comfortable with just playing around and understanding video codecs and things like that. But if you're good there, you can, like you can with Audacity with audio, Handbrake is a great video solution. And you can take a video and change the format into just about any other video type that you want. Runs in the background. It does take up some resource power, but as I said, it's completely free, no spyware, open source. Love that functionality. And in fact, I'm going to close that right now because we don't need to show that because we have this, which might even be better. This is an online tool called Online-Convert. And this allows you to take any sort of conversion file that you want and convert it into something else. So for example, if I wanted a video converter, I can say, okay, I want to convert whatever the target is. I want to convert it to an AVI file or a movie file or an MP4. And then hit go, I upload the video, conversion done. Pretty sweet. So video conversion, two different approaches, downloadable, web-based. Let's get to compression again, because we talked about compressing pictures within PowerPoint or Word, but there's also a pretty cool resource online called TinyPNG that uses very smart compression to be able to maximize the visual image, yet minimize the size of files. And you can just drop your file right into this top of the screen and it will upload, it will change it, and it will give you the optimized compressed file. Another cool tool. We're going to run through some of these quickly. While we're talking image, two tools, quick sip of water, one web-based, one app-based, I think are great for modifying images. The app-based, which I'm not going to show right now, is the app called Snapseed. Just think of it as Photoshop for your phone, free of charge. And what more do you need to say? In fact, it's a Google-owned service. Google bought them a number of years ago. And anytime I do a session where there are photographers in the room, whether they are good amateur or professional photographers, it's almost unanimous that they're going to say, I use Snapseed, absolutely. Now, I like PicMonkey on the web. They do have an app as well. I don't find it as good as Snapseed, but it's what I use almost on an entire basis on the web because I have the ability to take any picture, upload it, change it, create layers, resize it, backgrounds, and it is freemium. So you can do all this free of charge. If you want extra functionality, you get the usual $3 to $5 a month prescription fee that you have there, or subscription fee, I should say. So good stuff on image control, and definitely share if you have other ones that you use a lot. I know a lot of people like to use the image functionality within your phone's camera. I'm not a huge fan there. I think these tools are better, but use what you think's best. By the way, talking about pictures, we got to talk about Creative Commons licensing for a second, Creative Commons is a website, and actually more than a website, it's a license that allows people to share information and gives people the right to share it and reuse it. So example, we're creating a presentation for our colleagues and we need to grab some pictures and we want to go, well, we want to go to Google. We want to go to Google Images and I want to put an image of PowerPoint in here. Okay, so just because it's here doesn't mean I can use it. But if I go to Tools and I go to Usage Rights, I now have the ability to only choose those that have Creative Commons licenses built into it. And by doing that, you're going to see a lot less. But now we have different images that I am 90% confident that we can use. Now, there are different levels of Creative Commons licensing, but for what we're talking about right now, if you want a confidence level that's very high to be able to properly use an image that you're stealing, I mean borrowing, then you really want to take the Creative Commons approach. You can search from the Creative Commons site, or you can just do that straight from Google as well. Open source, which is what Creative Commons is and what Handbrake is actually a really big deal. And I know many of you know about it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time understanding and defining open source. But I do want to just use this as a jumping point for what I think is a pretty cool website to help understand technology even better, which is a site that's called Make Tech Easier. All this stuff that, I'm sorry I'm going to say this, but send your parents, because they might be able to get some great information that's there. But I love sites that actually talk technology in basic terms, because that helps everybody utilize it more efficiently. Okay, we've had the security conversation a few weeks ago, but I know some of you weren't there. So two things that are musts, especially once we get back away from our home where everything's much more secure and we're going out, business, to coffee shops, to hotels, to airports, we need to have a VPN, a virtual private network. I will never recommend a particular service, but what I will always tell you is what I use. And what I use as my VPN is a tool that's called TunnelBear, which by the way, I have off right now because I am at my home. So I'm not worried about people stealing this, plus I have other levels of protection here. But I always use it when I'm out. The minute I leave the house, on my phone, on my tablet, or on my computer, I have my TunnelBear activated, which is as simple as just clicking the on button, having the bear come through, growl and tell me that he or she is protecting me. Why is that important? Because as we type things in, if we're in a guest room in a hotel, we don't know if anybody's trying to pry, and we want to make sure that all of our data properly encrypted. By the way, your organizations might give you a VPN to use. That's great. Use it. I'm not saying TunnelBear is the best. I'm just telling you that's what I use. So one of the daily double of security. Two is password manager. Lots that are out there. Some that are actually dangerous to use. And as I've always said, do your due diligence about whether a particular tool that looks too good to be true is actually too good to be true. But I like using Dashlane, which again, plays across all my devices, makes me have a single master password I need to remember, because they don't. That's really difficult to break. I'm talking 10, 20, 30, 40 characters long. Doesn't have to be 40, but make it over 20 at least. And then all of your passwords for all your sites, you don't have to know them. They can be a generic hobnob of letters and numbers and special characters. That's going to keep you more protected than almost anything else you can do. A good password manager, and that daily double, password manager, VPN, keep protected. And oh, by the way, while we're talking about protection, somebody had asked even before the session started about robocalls. And now I've been researching, so I can't tell you from a lot of experience, but from people I've subsequently spoken to and some research I've done, I found three that I think are good ones to look at. Haya, which is on Android and iOS, and I tend to always prefer ones that play across both platforms, is a free one that gets really good marks from people. RoboShield is an iOS one that's supposed to be fantastic, and NomoRobo, that's a pay one, both with Android and iOS, also good. But the other thing to note that's really important is that all of your carriers have robocall functionality. I know it's not great. It's like the do not call lists that are out there. In theory, they're wonderful. And in practice, they're really not doing exactly what they should be. But I think a combination strategy of using your carrier's protection and a separate app, I think is your best bet. And I got to tell you, when I'm looking at what I'm going to be using, one of these is where I'm going to go as well. So that's my take on robocalls. By the way, going stealth with your browsing, you have the ability to go into incognito mode or content blocking mode. Let me show you really easy. If I go to the bottom of my screen where all of my shortcuts are, and I'm down almost bottom left of the screen, the Chrome shortcut, I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to get the ability to go into a new incognito window. That doesn't mean I'm safe and secure forever. It means that cookies aren't going to track me, and it's not, the history is not going to be saved, but you're still at risk. So if I was outside the house, I would use incognito browsing with my VPN. By the way, if I'm on Firefox, go to new private window. And if I'm going to use Edge, no, it doesn't have that functionality. That's why I don't use Edge that much anyway. So some browser stuff while we're here. Just a couple of shortcuts. We're not even going to talk much about all but one of these. Control-P allows you to save a web page as a PDF file or print it, obviously. Alt-Home brings you back to your defined page. F3, let's go to the web for two of these. F3. Now I see, I'm just looking for a word right there. Okay, great. So I hit F3 on any page and I get a search box that comes up. Extensible. I'm looking for that word. Well, there we go. I now have search capabilities on any page on the web. You knew that, right? I'm hoping you did. But if you didn't, now you do. And all you have to do, if you want to jump between the words, you hit the down arrow and it'll go across here. Pretty sweet, F3. But the one thing I always use on my browser is the troika of Control+, Control-, and Control-0. What do they do? Control+ will increase the point size. Control- will make the point size smaller, fitting more on the screen. And Control-0 always brings it back to 100%. Three cool tools right there. Oh, while we're talking about browsers, we have to talk about Google, and always good to have a bunny in the picture, right? But I want to show you a real cool trick. If we're going to go over to, oh, I don't know, where do we want to go right now? Maybe we want to go to the TUG website. And what I want to do here is find out about this company Infor. Wait a minute, I should know about them, right? But did you know that if you highlighted a word or a phrase on any website, right-clicked, you can then just click on Search Google. Now this comes up as one of my protection sites. We're not even going to talk about that right now, but look what comes up. So to search for anything, if you're on a web page that has that word, highlight, right-click, boom, you are there. And with that said, I've been talking for a while. Gloria, any questions that are out there? Anything that we want to chat about before we get to the last part of the conversation here?
Yes, couple questions.
Cool.
Number one, are there different types of Creative Commons licenses when using an image?
Yeah, there are lots of different ones. People say they can use it and you can make changes to it, or you can't make changes. You have to give attribution or not. So that's why even when you find it on Google, it's not a bad idea to also find it on Creative Commons and see the license that the author gave, because they will actually specify how you can use it and how you can't use it. So it's a great question.
Okay. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you personally is, I know that you're a PC devotee and you know that I'm on Mac, but before we went live, you were mentioning to me that there is a tool, a hack, as I was looking for a particular file. Did we cover that already, or is that coming up?
No, we did. That's the agent ransack that we showed earlier. And I'm guessing on that one, that might be a PC only, but it actually gives a really great jumping off point, because if you could put in a search box, agent ransack for Mac, what will probably come up is A, whether it's usable, and B, whether there are any alternatives there that are specific to the Mac platform. I think those tools are great. I never understood why Google got rid of the service they had. I downloaded it the day they came out with it years and years ago, and it was lightning quick to find stuff on my computer.
Good to know. That's all we have right now. I'm going to let you continue, and I'll see you at the final Q&A point.
Actually, I did see a question that came up in the Q&A box about opinion or experience with Microsoft Power Apps. I don't have enough experience to, I think, say anything that has value. So I'm going to throw that out to the chat room. to see if people are using the Microsoft Power Apps and what they're talking about. I'm more on the Google platform these days, so haven't had enough experience to give what I would consider a reasonable opinion on that. So I hope that's okay that I'm sort of avoiding that question. I'm not the expert in that area to be able to give the information. But I am with Google, at least to some extent. I've been talking about Google for 20 years. Chrome extensions. How many do you have? I probably got 25, 30, 40, most of them active. They all tend to sit right up on the top of my URL bar. Now, if you don't know what extension is, and Firefox has add-ons, they are little programs you add to your browser that gives you functionality that you can do things very, very quickly. For example, right here, I have my Save to Pocket add-on. It's the same thing as this, but you can do it in different ways. Right here, I have my dash lane, so I can actually unlock my site with the information that's there. You're going to see this Web of Trust in a second. I happen to like that a lot. Matter of fact, we'll show it right now because this little green icon right here tells me that the Infor site is safe and has a good reputation. I like stuff like that. Now, the thing about extensions to understand is that you got to find where you get them, and the Chrome Extension Store, just Google it to find it, is the place to go, but please be aware. Don't download anything on a work computer without IT's okay. That's just standard operating procedure. But on your own, make sure that you're certain that the extension you're downloading is safe and secure. So I saw this one called Stay Focused, block time-wasting websites. Okay, not really my cup of tea, but it sounds pretty cool. So what did I do? I went to Google and I put the word malware with the name of the product, Stay Focused. Now, it did try to tell me I spelled it wrong, but I'm not listening to them. But what I see here is actually harmless feedback. If this was a bad site, if this was a mal site, what you would probably see are people saying this is malware, don't download it. This is a clear way for me to be able to quickly find out whether what I'm about to download is dangerous or not. And I'm very focused on that. And because I play in the Google extension Firefox add-on space, I want to make sure I'm not doing damage to my computer by adding on an extension. I love the productivity functionality there. I know it can be a danger. Okay, while we're talking Google, a couple things. Do you know it's a calculator? I don't have to go down that path. I understand that. And you know it can do conversions. I can take 1 tablespoon or how many teaspoons or all that stuff. But here's the thing I think is really cool. So I'm just going to go up to Google and I'm going to type in the words tip calculator. And you're out with your friends and hopefully at some point we can get back to dining outside. It's all cool and it's healthy and it's safe. And it's 123.87. And that we want to leave a nice tip for the wait person there. And there's 3 of us that were there. And isn't that really cool? That you don't have to even download a separate app. Google will tell you just by entering tip calculator, the total per person and the tip per person right there. Gotta love these things. Tip calculator, awesome stuff with Google. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to show this one, but we're gonna give it a shot here. There's a great tool that Android has, and I haven't seen it on iOS yet, and it's called Live Transcribe. So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and come back here. Hi, guys. So I'm here. And so what I'm going to do right here is actually go to my phone, and I'm going to see whether we can make this work so you can see this. So very simply, I'm going to go, first of all, I should have had this all set up and I didn't, but I forgot where I put it. So all good here. I'm going to go to Live Transcribe. Okay, so you can't hear that well. You're in your church and you can't hear the sermon that well. What can I do here? Well, what I can do is, let's put this here, is start talking and see if I can see this text in real time in large text point size so I can make sure I can see as well as I can hear. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Live Transcribe, free app in the Android space. Gotta love playing there. Now, while I got you here, here's one that you're gonna have to try, and it's on your own. I'm just gonna dig something up. I have a little thing here with my writing, and it's tiny, and I can't see without glasses. So, did you know, if you're at a restaurant or you forgot your glasses somewhere, and you need to read something, albeit no letter or word at a time, what you can do is make a pinhole with your hand, really small, and hover it over the information And unbelievably, or believably because it's science, you're now going to be able to read that. Why? Well, because the pupil is redirecting light by having your pinhole made into an area so you can see that stuff better. Pretty amazing stuff. I know you don't look like a crazy person doing that, but gotta tell you, first time you're in a restaurant forgetting your glasses and you hover your hand like that, you're gonna be really thankful. So try it. I'm not going to say any more. Let's move on from this one as we're in the home stretch. Want to create some cool animations? If this is one of the few things that is a more expensive tool that I'm talking about. Most of these are free that we've played with or you have them already. But I like what Doodly has to offer. And there are a couple of different products that can do that. But if you notice here, I have my introduction for my series. And I'm going to hit preview right now. And what I was able to do is actually create that whole animation just by taking an image and telling Doodly just how long to take to draw it. And you can create an animation like that. The price point of this, I think, is around $40 or $45. But I've used this for the past couple of years now and think it's a really, really great approach to easily create animation graphics, whether it's for an Instagram post, whether it's for YouTube, whether it's for any social or website. Why not have that tool in your kit? Oh, great spacebar trick. I didn't know this one until about a year or two ago. Doing the session, and I always want to share, and I'm asking you as well, what are your favorite hacks? Because we're always going to learn from each other. And what I always hated about, well, not just my iPad, but my Android phone, is trying to get, once I type something in, I see there's a mistake, and I don't want to backspace erase everything that I've already put in there. I wanted to get, 5 words back in there in the middle of a word. And somebody said, well, that's easy. Just put your finger on the space bar and move it either to the left or the right, and you can move it as if you're moving it one space at a time. I go, shoot, no, really? I mean, all these years I didn't even know that. Pretty amazing stuff. Okay, so home stretch, battery dying. Well, charge it in airplane mode, going to save you a little bit of time for the recharging process. The lenses. Office Lens, a way you can take a picture of a document and actually turn it into a text file that you can edit. Pretty sweet. Or Google Lens with its AI that you can take a photo of something on the outside, a flower or a building, and it will tell you what it is. Both tools are amazing when they work well and pretty cool otherwise, and they're both free of charge, so why not, Once we get back traveling, Hopper still is my #1 favorite app in terms of finding out when to fly and the best time and the best fee and the best cost and when that price is about to go up. So it's won awards over the past couple of years as one of the best fare prediction sites out there. We talked about this in the case of emergency. Hopefully you're at that session, but you really have to have an app like ICE Standard, which will keep all of your medical information first and foremost on your screen. So if you ever get into a situation where you need medical attention and a first responder gets to you, they will have access to that, possibly can save your life. And I think that's more important than anything else we talked about here. So winding up the way cool Excel trick, the absolute way cool Excel trick. Let me get to Excel right here. I want to create a chart. I want to create it really quickly. And I know that it takes me forever to build charts long form, but if I wanted to chart this information right here, wouldn't it be really cool if I just could hit one key and the chart is, wow, I did that. Yeah, pretty amazing. That one trick tool in Excel is the F11 key, and it could be the most killer shortcut within Excel. And as I said that, this may be the way coolest Excel trick, although it's not completely out there yet. It allows a user of an Android device to take a picture of a table and have it import all the elements of that table into Excel. Pretty amazing. I've tried it, I've used it. It's good, not great, but I was trying it out when I first started and it's gotten a lot better. So be on the lookout, both in the iPlatform and in the Android platform about this. Yikes, a lot of cool stuff we've talked about here. And this one I'm going to send you home with because it's homework, because it's about school, and I can't show augmented reality well without multiple cameras and screens, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to download an app called Photomath. And I want you to then hover it over an equation that's written neatly, either typewritten or in neat print, and you'll see the app will solve the problem in real time. And you needed to give your kids help in math. Matter of fact, first time I talked about this, which was years ago, was at a teachers conference. And I mean, the shrieks and the gasps that came out, oh my gosh, you can't tell our kids about this. And I started laughing because that's where I learned about it from. You know, they're the ones that know. But augmented reality for learning math problems, pretty sweet. Let's end with one that's kind of puts a smile on your face. You go to the movies at some point down the road and you don't have your remote control with you because you're at the movies. You're not at home anymore where you can stop things or run to the bathroom, but you need to go and you don't want to miss anything. Well, why not run that app right there? And that'll tell you when the best breaks in the action are. So you can go and not miss anything. And with that, Gloria, I'm going to say thank you to you all. I want to see if we have any more questions or comments that are out there. You guys are awesome. Make sure you understand and take one cool tool away from this and use it and just share your productivity with others. Hey, Gloria, so do we have any more comments or questions we want to talk about?
I haven't seen anything populate in the Q&A bank, but I do have a question. With regard to live transcribe, with so many people attending digital content, whether either in the format of education that companies are sharing, like sales training, technology training, or if they're going to an online program for continuing education to equip them better in their job, is the live transcribe an acceptable form of ADA compliance to also be supportive with regard to the hearing impaired? And can it be used? I mean, if you put your phone next to the laptop, for example, can it be used that way effectively?
I can't say with 100% certainty that it gives you full ADA compliance, but I got to believe it does because of what it can do and the fact that you can then plug in a headphone to there and get the audio transcription read to you. It's kind of, you know, the odd computer type voice that's there. But quite frankly, it is an amazing tool. And every time I use it, I'm surprised at the low amount of inaccuracy that's on there. It's just good, and it's constantly shifting and constantly readjusting. Like when you go to Google Translate and tools like that, which are great as well, but you just don't have that ability to just hold it up and have it give you not just the text, but the large type that makes it easier to read.
Right. That's great to know. Jim, I'm just going to mention to people that if they would like to reach out to you, the best thing to do is to shoot you an email with any follow-up at jspellos@meeting-u.com.
Indeed. Always fun to talk to people and give them the help that they need. Again, I know people probably came here, Gloria, knowing about 3/4 of these hacks, but for every single person, this session's about that 1/4 you didn't know, without one tool
Right.
you're able to take away.
Right. Well, I don't see anything else populating at this juncture. So what I would like to do, number one, Jim, is to say a special thank you to you for the great content that you always bring to our TUG members and showcasing us with all this great information. You've done a series of things. So for those of you who really enjoy Jim's programs, please feel free to go to our members only portal and look for the information that he has presented in the last about 6 or so weeks. We'd also like to invite those of you that are TUG members to continue this discussion in our online forums. And those of you who are not members yet, please visit the www.theusergroup.org site and join us today. And also keep an eye on your inbox because we have another powerful session that's going to be presented by the group of Unformed next Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. And we always post them as well into the TUG portals. So on that note, again, thanks for joining us today. And as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap.